Welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, November 9th, 2023. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Having experienced 4 to 5 tsunami-like activities in the past, Deputy Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, Kenson Stoddard, said that St. Vincent and the Grenadines must be tsunami ready. Stoddard was speaking on the VC3 program last evening on the importance of being prepared for a tsunami.
It's important for communities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to be tsunami ready because it's a real threat to our livelihood, to our existence. And Dr. Latchman just indicated that we have had experiences. We have these waves impacting the shores of the Caribbean, countries in the Caribbean over the years. From my recollection, we have experienced just about 4 or 5 tsunamis in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And,
little ones?
Well, varying impact. The record for Beckway, the damage level was described as 2. So that means that we had some flooding and so on. It is said that just about over 50 something, between 50 and 100 houses were affected. So we're not out of this threat. And so because of that, we have to be prepared.
Stoddard said NEMO and the policymakers of the country are working hard to put effective measures in place so that residents of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, especially those living in coastal communities, are tsunami ready. The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, this year completed work to recognize the coastal communities from Kingston to Argyle as tsunami ready through the UNESCO Tsunami Ready process of assessment, community engagement, simulation exercises, developing standard operating procedures for evacuation and communicating early warning messages at the community level in the event of a tsunami. These communities gain recognition as tsunami-ready communities on Friday, September 15, 2023.
But we've seen this increase in seismicity across the region, and that is of concern to us at the National Disaster Office, NEMO. And of course, we know that we have an active volcano to the south of us. And we should be guided by the events that took place in Tonga a few years ago. And so there's a possibility over time that this might present a real threat to us. In fact, we have evidence in 1939 of small waves generated by an eruption of Kikum-Jenny. So we have to be prepared. We have to increase the knowledge, the awareness. We have to increase the planning, and so on. We have to know what to do, what to look out for, and so it's really important for us to get on board with this understanding of tsunamis and how we prepare and how do we mitigate, and so on.
Explaining that a tsunami is considered as the most deadliest and unexpected disaster, seismologist of the UWI Research Center, Dr. Joan Latchman, said not only SVG must be prepared, but all Caribbean countries.
So one should treat tsunamis with the greatest respect. I would mention that the word tsunami really came into everyone's vocabulary in 2004 following the Indian Ocean tsunami. And the Indian Ocean, like the Caribbean, had not seen a major tsunami for hundreds of years. And certainly here in the Caribbean, we can become complacent because the thing hasn't happened. But the Indian Ocean is an important lesson for all of us to learn. That because the thing has, there's a saying here in Trinidad, I don't know if you have it there in St. Vincent also, what doesn't happen in a million years can happen in a minute. And so because it hasn't happened for hundreds of years, it doesn't mean that it will not happen. The fact is we have earthquakes in the Eastern Caribbean. We have a lot of water surrounding our islands, and those two things together mean that we can have a tsunami, and one day that tsunami is going to be significant. And so, as your authorities are doing, and as other authorities in the region are doing, we must definitely be putting the measures in place so that when that event occurs, that generates a tsunami that is significant. We know what to do, we can do it, and the impact can be mitigated.
Tsunami Awareness Day was observed on Sunday, November 5th, 2023, under the theme Fighting Inequality for Resilient Future. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has become the first Eastern Caribbean country to sign on to the School Meals Coalition, a global member state-led initiative established to promote school health and nutrition. The goal of the School Meals Coalition is to ensure that every child has the opportunity to receive a healthy, nutritious meal in school by 2030. The coalition brings together 88 governments, the United Nations, civil society, the private sector and academia to drive actions to re-establish, improve, and scale up school meals programs. As a member of the coalition, SVG will continue work to restore and improve the quality of school meals for children and families affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, vulnerable populations, and those affected by climate shocks. SVG will also join global efforts to improve policies and programs related to maximizing health, nutrition, and education, as well as achieving greater sustainability by strengthening linkages with local food system. SVG was officially welcomed as a new member of the School Meals Coalition at a global summit held in Paris this year, which was attended by Education Minister Curtis King and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Michael Burke.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are committed to the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. And for the purpose of this meeting, we are very committed to the attainment of Sustainable Development Goal number 2, which deals with the end of hunger, and also the Development Goal number 4, that speaks to the issue of a quality education that is lifelong and accessible to all. As part of our efforts at attaining these goals, the issue of the school feeding program is significant and important. We have established such a program for quite a number of years. And what has happened recently, the COVID pandemic, followed by, in our case, the explosive eruption of our volcano, has put a spoke, so to speak, in the wheels of our progress with regards to the school feeding program. And therefore, we are in this phase of recovery, consolidation, expansion, and looking at sustainability. And we believe that by joining this coalition, that we would be in a great position, one, to share, because we have ideas to share also, and also to benefit from good practices that we'll encounter, and so be in a position to enhance both the national program and the global program.
In April this year, the World Food Programme, the WFP, conducted an official mission to St. Vincent and the Grenadines in response to the government's thrust to strengthen the delivery and quality of school meals across the country. The mission led to SVG joining the School Meals Coalition. Currently, the Ministry of Education and National Reconciliation and the WFP are discussing the next steps and technical support to address gaps and opportunities identified during the mission. The school feeding program became operational in SVG on February 1st, 1984, and was fully funded by the United Nations World Food Programme, the WFP, from 1984 to 1996. In 1996, the WFP ended its operations in the country, and the Ministry of Education took full ownership of the program. Following the 2021 eruptions of the La Soufrière volcano, the WFP supported the provision of school meals to 669 children and funding for kitchen equipment to enhance delivery capacity to different locations. The WFP and the government of SVG have partnered to support the national agenda to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. In other local news now, we hear that with the growing demand for beef from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Minister of Agriculture Subotu Caesar is encouraging farmers and butchers to work together to meet this demand. Minister Caesar said this is one of the matters discussed recently during a meeting with butchers, who he said have worked hard to support farmers to ensure they have an outlet to sell their animals and also playing their part in the reduction of the country's food import bill. The Agriculture Minister noted that animals produced here in SVG are far superior because of the feeding system, hence the reason why so many persons are coming to SVG to purchase our beef.
Some persons have the view that the period that we are in now and that this discussion is one of negativity, but I don't see it that way. I see this increase in the demand for beef from St. Vincent and the Grenadines as an excellent opportunity for us to continue to secure our space as the breadbasket of the Southern Caribbean. Every week, you have persons exporting root crops from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to many other islands, and we're now exporting to a lot to the United States of America, up to the British Virgin Islands, and we still export to Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados. As I noted earlier, there's a demand for the exportation of beef, and I know that we're also exporting pigs, and I am aware from the numbers that we have sent away goats and sheep. The issue that we are facing now is one whereby we have to have here in the country an exponential increase in the number of animals on the island. If we do not have an exponential increase in the number of animals on the island between now and the next 6 months, with the growing demand from the hospitality industry, it could create an issue of scarcity.
Minister Caesar noted that the government brought in a vet from Cuba along with assistance from the government of Jamaica, in which an artificial insemination program was launched about 5 years ago. He said this is just one step in increasing livestock production, which has to be increased now 10 times more in order to keep up with the demand.
You have now persons getting into cattle production, but we are not getting into it fast enough and large enough. And I really want to thank the butchers this morning for sounding the alarm, because they are the ones on the front line going out to meet with the farmers on a Wednesday and a Thursday to ensure that community by community we have animals which will be slaughtered and which will be sold. I see an excellent opportunity for butchers. The butchers, however, would want the support of the farmers, because let us remember, from day one, before we were exporting to Grenada and to other countries, and before we had the demand from other persons, the butchers were always there with us and for us, and we have established relationships with the butchers. So this morning is a call for solidarity for us to work together. We can't be fighting against each other and trying to build the same country. We have to work together.
The Agriculture Minister said with such a demand, the government is there to create the enabling environment to support the expansion to meet this demand.
Nothing stopping us from bringing vets into the country to support this expansion, because when you look at the number of vets that we have in the ministry, they can do so much and no more. We have identified in this meeting this morning the problems. We spoke about the theft of animals, dogs killing animals, persons going onto people's farms without permission and just having the animals going and graze down people's farms. You also have the issue that there are certain pedigree animals that must remain in the country in order for us to ensure that we are on the productive path. Also, the issue was raised that not to stop persons at the port before they export, but to, in a very practical way, provide persons who want to export animals with a guide, so that before they even purchase the animal, they know that there is a guide, and to have more persons going around with the purchasers to ensure that we protect the national herd.
Braxa was able to respond positively to the many landslides which occurred across the country during the recent heavy rainfalls. This is according to Minister of Transport and Works, Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel on NBC Radio yesterday.
Positively, of course, clearing all of these landslides and making the access free again. Many rivers were down, where their volume increased tremendously. In areas like Rabaka and those other rivers, the deposits were high. And so, this is of concern to the management of these rivers.
Minister Daniel also noted on radio yesterday that more holes are seen open in roads across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And one of the main causes of this is because of heavy trucks and trailers on the road network, and that the government will be addressing the matter.
We are seeing massive trucks and trailers on the road, where these trailers and these trucks are taking greater loads than 12 tons. They are presently in this country where trucks are now carrying up to 20 tons of weight on the road, while trailers are carrying up to 55 tons of weight on the road. Johnny, we have a problem, because the roads are designed at the moment at a specific weight carrying capacity. We have a problem. Having identified that problem, the matter was brought before the Transport Board for review. Because, Johnny P, there are contractors and other private operators who are moving equipment across the country that are even creating problems by damaging the road surface and otherwise.
The National Science and Technology Fair, being held at the Methodist Church Hall in capital Kingston, was open to the general public today to view the various experimental projects by students from the primary and secondary schools across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Education Officer with responsibility for science in the Ministry of Education, Juanita King, said this year's National Science and Technology Fair is a tremendous success, noting a high level of innovation displayed by the participating students. King is hoping that some of the students can get the opportunity to enter into regional science fairs to showcase their innovative projects.
We have a number of projects that fit the theme imagination. We have students, we have open level participants who are all engaged and happy to be a part of this event. So yeah, I think this is definitely a success. Some of the projects you would see would have scored higher in those categories, that criteria, than others. But we can see that this is definitely an area that is developing. And through exhibits like these, students, persons from the community have an opportunity to really develop that skill. Actually, I want to see a regional fair. I want to see our students going forward for a regional science fair competition. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully I'll be on the team helping to plan it.
And fourth form students of the St. Vincent's Girls High School are showcasing their wind energy conservation project at the Science and Technology Fair. The students expressed that in keeping with this year's theme of the fair, Imagination, they are proposing wind energy conservation using a wind turbine and practical application. Zaranique Forbes said their inspiration came from a desire for a greener environment by reducing the use of fossil fuel.
Inspired us was that we seek for a greener alternative so that we wouldn't have to use fossil fuels. We want to reduce the dependence that we have on them, as it would be a better alternative, as it wouldn't emit as much toxic gases such as carbon dioxide, so that we can help to reduce global warming and the detrimental effects of the greenhouse gases. So we had to consider that it would be able to withhold the water, so we had to make a waterproof structure using foil and a silicone-based styrofoam.
Forbes further explain how their waterfall's wind turbine power source work.
So our waterfall here is powered using the wind turbine. So the wind turbine is powered when wind blows on the wind turbine, it would spin the blades, causing the shaft built inside to spin. So this turns an electrical generator, which turns mechanical energy into electrical energy. So this electrical energy is then used to pump that we recycled from an old fish tank to pump our man-made waterfall. So the pump has a tube which is connected to the bottles. So this helps to give us the height needed so the water can be produced to form hydroelectrical energy. We also have a bit of a replica of an irrigation system happening. So this is called tank irrigation, where rainwater is collected so that the water supply can be maintained, and the water is then filtered so that you can filter the toxins and contaminants such as leaves or algae, so that you can keep a clean water supply to then use for bathing or watering your crops and washing.
The National Science and Technology Fair will wrap up tomorrow with a prize-giving ceremony at 1:30 p.m.